concern, but it'd just be nice to have another candidate.
Hey, it's one step up from my Sprinter van, so you're good. Let's call the meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please? Mr. Zrenchek?
Mrs. Barnes?
Here?
Mrs. Rogers?
Here.
Mr. Roach? Here. Mrs. Barney?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Durig?
Here.
Solicitor Nicholas?
Here.
Mr. Lennon?
Here.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the April 16th, 2024 minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I hear a second.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion to ratify personnel appointment for the wastewater treatment plant operator? Do we need any conversation on that beforehand?
The gentleman passed his drug test, did the background physical, everything was good there. He was cleared, he started yesterday, and so far, so good.
Okay, I'll make that motion to approve, or to ratify the personnel appointment. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote?
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lennon, engineers report.
Thank you. Going to the report on the Village of Lawrence collection system contract. So work completed in the last month. They completed all the mainline work. They completed the grinder pump installations. And they completed a majority of the paving. So the paving restoration was all wrapped up and demobilized within the last week. They still have some driveways to do. There's one paper street that's really steep. They need to figure out what to do there to get some asphalt there because it is very steep. And they're working on all the grass restoration. That's usually one of the most important parts of the project is this final restoration for all the residents. And we're dealing with complaints, Mike mainly, with some of the residents, some very vocal. But all in all, everything's going really well. And their time of completion was actually May 16th in the contract, and they just wrapped up. So they're pretty much on schedule for the contract. So I did bring a drawing tonight. We highlighted in red the residents that can connect now before the new plant's placed online. So there are 78 homes that could connect out of the 244. The rest of them won't be able to connect till the new plant's online. And I'll report on that under the treatment plant contract. So,
Okay.
So we're in the next month. We'll go over the final quantities. It looks like we're going to be very well under contract price. So next month we should have a change order credit to discuss, and also the change order for the extra paving. We'll track those separate because there'll be adjustment of quantities, but then also the extra for the milling and overlaying for some of those township roads. So they did submit partial payment number 12 in the amount of $383,648.13. We do recommend a motion to approve, and that is on the agenda. Under the treatment plant contract, so they did complete a lot of work inside the building. So into the control building, installation of blowers, aeration lines. They're working on the tanks, control building lighting, a lot of electrical work. Last month I reported about West Penn Power, about the potential issue there. We did have a meeting on site with West Penn Power today. They're advising, so they're going to need to set 2 new poles that they didn't anticipate when we talked to them during design. They were going to place the transformers on the existing pole and then run underground back to the plant. So they're going to have to place 2 new poles, one on our site. They're actually requiring now a pad-mounted transformer, so we'll have to do a concrete pad, run the new conduits to the new transformer. They need to get us a cost, though, for their work, because they did not get it to us yet, but we just met with them this morning. They advised 4 to 6 weeks. So the schedule, in terms of schedule, it's not, it lines up with the Mealy schedule, because Mealy did finally submit a schedule, and they proposed startup of the plant in November. So that's where they're at, with the Teodori work extending well into next year for demolition of the old plant. So they did submit a partial payment request, number 11, in the amount of $726,821.58. We do recommend a motion to approve that. And also on the agenda, Discussing with operations staff, there's a request to include, to do a change order for total suspended solids probes, to add those into the treatment plant. That helps for better sludge management, for solids management. It is a good idea to add that. And that would, integrating it into the control system, it would help with the automatic treatment process. Did have a cost in there, I apologize, 1 second. It's like, I think it was 21,000. The amount of the change order is $21,095.86. And we would get that to the contractor for them to execute it and bring it back next month to get it signed, get it executed. Penvest, so we also have Penvest payment request number 12 in the amount of $753,433.22. Under the collection system contract, you're in the local share, so there is no Penvest reimbursement on that. You're using your capital funds and also the township share on the project. The Mealy contract, though, that's still in Penvest share, so a lot of that's for the Mealy contract. So the
Okay, so
treatment plant.
normally, these two requests for partial payments would be added together for the Penvest, but it's not because we're using,
Yeah, because you were
funds.
partial Penvest and local share, and also you had an LSA grant, which that was actually submitted for reimbursement this month.
Okay.
So you're waiting for the check there. I think they asked for some additional information, but the county has just about everything to release that check. And there was capital funds committed to the project, and there's also the township, that $1 million they committed to the project too. So,
okay.
Yep. So you're in that portion of the project, at least for the collection system contract. Treatment plant contract, there's still Penvest funds remaining, so we're still drawing down on that.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? All right, do I hear a motion to approve partial payment number 12 in the amount of $383,648.13?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to approve partial payment number 11 in the amount of $726,821.58?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve Penvest payment requisition number 12 in the amount of $753,433.22?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the change order number 3 for contract number 21-STP1 rebid Village of Lawrence Sewage Treatment Plant for the installation of TSS probes in the SBR basins? I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Thank you, Larry. Mr. Nicholas, Solicitor's report, please.
Yes, I only have one item for comment and ask for a brief executive session at the end of the agenda on the CHJA litigation.
Okay. All right, business manager's report. Start.
All right, this month's packets include the March 2024 financial reports. Any questions? All right, and also, the auditor started our 2023 audit last Thursday.
Do we have an expected time for how long he'll take?
Not yet, no. He's supposed to come back sometime this week to do a few more things, and
Okay, and then we'll ask him to have or is that in the beginning of the year? When do we ask him to come in and give a review?
when he's completed,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you. Mr. Zrencheck, Authority Manager's Report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Under old business, the permit renewals, they've all been submitted, no change, we're just waiting to hear back. Silver Creek Development, we did meet with the developer to review the sanitary plans back on May 8th. We had some comments, passed that back to Silver Creek. They sent some things over regarding the type of pipe to be used. Kevin and I talked about that. There'll be some further discussion on that, but that's kind of where we're at on that. We're still working with LSSE to resolve the maintenance bond issues with Traditions of America for Phase 5. That's the only outstanding thing needed for us to accept those sewers is for them to pay the maintenance bond with the updated costs. Gerber Collision is looking to modifying the property at 55 Mayview Road. They submitted plans. SSE reviewed the drawings and provided a comment letter. That letter was issued on April 23rd of this year, and it was forwarded to the developer. We're waiting to hear back from the developer, but I think all the comments were addressed and everything should be good, so we're just waiting to hear from that. LNS Wastewater had contacted the authority. We're waiting for a response. There's no change on that. The flow metering equipment that was included in the capital budget for replacement this year and update some of the outdated units, it's all been ordered. Once it comes in, it will be put on the schedule for installation. Miller's Run Pump Station. Last year we had a problem around Labor Day where we found out that the VFDs are the way the pumps run, and if the VFDs go down, you cannot run the pumps. So we talked about doing a backup, and it would let the station still be operational as well as provide protection for the pumps. So at this point in time, that was a capital improvement project that was budgeted for this year. All the parts have been ordered. It is on the schedule to be installed. And we ordered some other parts for the station as well that will be included as capital that we did not have. Item 8, the water line agreement for the extension for the new treatment plant. It has been executed and returned to PAWC. They passed it over for finalization, and once everything is done, they will notify us when they are going to install the line. Under new business, item 1, the annual maintenance for the standby generators for all locations was completed this week. They are to provide me with a quote for replacement of the batteries for the generators, the automatic transfer switches, and the coolant hoses for the units. The hoses are all original to these units, and some of these units go back to 2008. So next year, we'll budget for those. The batteries are getting up there. They're 4 or 5 years old, but they still checked out in the normal range. He recommended that next year, as part of the service, we look at that. So basically, I'm going to have them give me a price, and we can budget for that for next year. But those items are not considered part of routine maintenance or the maintenance contract. Last month, I reported that the number 2 pump at Miller's Pump Station was not pumping correctly after we had the storm events. The pump was tripping the breaker and does show motor damage, so we had it removed and sent out for repair. The one pump has been sent out before. It looks like this pump has never been sent out. It's original from 2008, so it's probably time. So it went out yesterday. While they were assessing that one, the number 2 pump at Cherry Brook was also having issues. We checked that one out as well. It was determined that the mechanical seal bearings and the seals have failed in that pump. The impeller is also worn as well. I had them price it 2 ways for me. Repair cost is $3,565 versus $10,125 for new. We sent this one out for repair. We had applied for a grant to rehab this entire pump station, and we should know something in the fall, so I don't want to invest anything if we get a grant to rehab everything. We don't get a lot of flow in this station, so it's not like this pump takes a lot of abuse, and these pumps are pretty much original to when the station was put in, and that's 94 era, so you got a lot of years out of them. So I think the repair is the better way to go. Item number 4, 19 Mayview Road is being subdivided into 2 parcels. The one parcel is being proposed to be used to build a pickleball facility. The engineer reached out to me to see what is necessary as part of the division, or the subdivision, and if a planning module is necessary. What happens with this is, from preliminary looking at this and discussion with Walt, the way the property runs, there will be a lateral that goes across this easement, or this property, and the way Cecil Township rules are written, there is not allowed to be a private lateral across another property, but there was an instance that there was an exception granted, but it has to be shown on the subdivision that the easement was granted between the two owners, and that lateral is the responsibility of the homeowner. We have nothing to do with it. And then they asked me for some other information, so we're just going in the planning stages for now. Once he gets me everything, I'll include LSSE to the discussion, and I'll keep everyone updated.
Wouldn't that be commercial property there?
It is commercial property, but it's still the way it wraps around the back side of the building. That easement that comes out of 19 will go through the parking lot, and it's just the way our regulations are written. But like I said, it was over on Wilson Avenue that they did this in the past. Both property owners are agreeable, so that would be worked out between them. It's really nothing for the authority, but it's just we wanted to make sure that they were aware of that. Item 5, the 2023 Ford F-350 and the 2014 Ford F-150 are due for annual inspection. The F-350 will have the oil change and the tires rotated as part of the inspection. New tires and oil change were completed on the F-150 back in January. I also received a recall on the F-350 axle shaft. The part's on order and will be installed once it arrives at the dealer. Item 6, South Point Pump Station across from Technology Drive on South Point Boulevard. I need to do something with the landscaping at the facility. Currently, there's mulch at this site, and I don't know if they put any weed block or anything down like that, but I would like to do something to try to freshen all that up and put something in that does not require a lot of maintenance on our part. We do get phone calls about the upkeep because it's right there on the boulevard. You can't miss it. So just something that would make it, easy on our guys and, not a lot there to do. I'm going to get some prices and, get some ideas for the next month's meeting. Item number 7, the UV disinfection system at Miller's Run wastewater treatment plant is giving erratic readings on the display. It looks like it could be the circuit board failing. I tried a couple options with the troubleshooting section to see if we can resolve it, but the vendor's getting me pricing for the circuit board system and the UV sensor, if one of those are the problem. So if we can't resolve it, we currently have no spare parts as far as the circuit board or that goes right now. So I'd like to, if the price is reasonable, get those in stock. Replacement bulbs are going to be on sale, and I'm going to look and see what the pricing is for them. I'll order those as well. Bulbs are maintenance items. According to the manual, it recommends that they are changed out at least yearly, but we could stretch them to about 18 months. We changed those out last May. We're still getting a good disinfection, but it's just something that, I want to try to keep up with. This way we don't have any problems there. Other than that, that's what I have on the report this month, and I will entertain any questions if anyone has them.
All good? All right, thank you. Do we have any correspondence to review? No? All right, moving on. Do I hear a motion to approve payment of expenses, transfer of funds, et cetera, for invoices and payroll taxes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, there no being anybody here tonight, we will not have any comments from the floor. So at Mr. Nicholas's request, I'll make a motion for executive session for personnel matters and litigation of property. Do I hear a second?
I'll make that second motion.
Roll call?
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Going into session at 6:50.
We,
Coming out of executive session at 7:15. That's okay. And I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Everybody say aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
everybody.
Thanks, Ramel.
Thanks, Ramel.
I have to take his phone call.
Oh, speaking of that, Liam called me twice, hope there's no emergency.